back to another podcast on MMAUnhinged. Today, we have probably the most talked about podcast we'll have throughout the whole of our going. We have UFC London to talk about, and oh my word, what a fantastic show. From top to bottom, there was not a foot wrong that was wrong with this show. It's fantastic. We started off for the evening with Makhachev and ended with Tom Aspinall, Super Tom. I am once again joined by my co-host, Oscar. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. How could you not still be riding the high of UFC London? I'm not even from London, but I still, of course, felt the impact from the show. And I felt like the best performance of the night went to the crowd. The crowd really gave the show a different feel, and they really showed appreciation for their hometown heroes, the likes of Aspinall, Pimlet, and McCann. It was a fantastic show. You couldn't have predicted the show to go this well because it went unbelievably well. And I got a feeling when we talk about the best things that happened this year, we're going to be talking about this show. There's no doubt this show will, at the bare minimum, get nominated for something.
I agree 100%. When we talk about our awards at the end of this year, I think this will be probably, the one we talk about winning it, or if not, being close. To be honest, I don't see a fight night this year. Unless the UFC surprise us with a fantastic fight night, I don't see a fight night topping this year. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, this was most likely the best UFC fight night of all time. And it was the highest grossing UFC fight night of all time. They had a $4.5 million gate, and they gave a bonus to everybody that got a finish. That's $450,000 they give out in bonuses. That's how much of a good mood Dana White was in after seeing the fights. Just like everybody else, he's a big fight fan. And we ended the night with Tom Aspinall's first round straight arm lock over Aleksandar Volkov. This was very impressive to me. We both actually picked against Tom Aspinall. We had never seen the guy fight in front of a big crowd. We did not know how he would deal with it, and he dealt with it unbelievably well. He looked like he was going out for a little stroll in the morning. He was unbothered, and he was the quicker fighter in there, and I thought eventually he would tire out, but Volkov's takedown defense did not hold up at all. He was getting tagged constantly, hit with big elbows, and then once the second takedown came around, Volkov had no way to get up, and Aspinall was starting to crank out that arm, and he got the finish in under 4 minutes. Nobody's ever done this to Volkov in his 43 professional fights. I was absolutely impressed by Aspinall's performance here. He's never looked better. He's making improvements. He's not even 30. I think this guy's ceiling will be a championship in the UFC's heavyweight division. I couldn't be higher on Tom Aspinall after this. And his next fight will certainly be a big one. How impressed were you by his quick finish here against the real stud of Volkov?
I mean, this was the biggest test of his career, undoubtedly. And it was against Volkov, as we talked about, 45 veteran. He's been there. He's done it all. He fought for the Bellator championship. I believe even, or am I talking about? Volkov held the Bellator championship, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep, so he held it. So he's defended it. He's fought 5 rounds. Volkov is always a guy that you got to prepare well for. He's a tricky customer. And I believe this might be one of the first few times that Tomas will be fighting upwards, because Volkov's a big guy. He's a big bloke. He's 6'8", and he's fighting upwards. And Tomas will dealt with, as you talked about, the pressure, the fans. First time fighting in the UFC in front of fans. This is his first ever time that he's main eventing. The guy has some bollocks, I can tell you that. And he looks cool, calm, and composed. He never looked like he looked nervous once whatsoever. I don't know what he was drinking or what he was eating that night, but he needs more of it. It was fantastic. And a fantastic performance against his most experienced opponent yet to date, and his hardest test to date, and undoubtedly his best performance to date. So a fantastic win, and he moves into the top 5 of the heavyweight division. And then on the mic, he calls out Taito Tuivasa, which I thought, that's not a bad call out.
Not bad at all. They're both in the same range, and they're both two guys that are representatives of the new blood in the heavyweight division that we've been waiting on for a very long time. It feels like we had the same guys fighting for the belt for the longest time, and they were all aging guys, guys like Miocic and Cormier, and these guys, they're not even 30 yet. I think these guys are going to be the ones that are going to be fighting in the top 10 for the foreseeable future. And as I said, Tom Aspinall will hold that championship before he calls that a career. The guy has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's super quick, and he's making huge improvements. And he just beat a guy with 44 pro fights. Tom Aspinall has a super high ceiling. And in my personal opinion, Tuivasa shouldn't be the next guy. In all honesty, I don't see that being competitive at all. I really don't see it being competitive. But a fight that we've been calling for a while is Chris Daukaus. And should he win against Curtis Blaydes, why not do that? Or the Curtis Blaydes fights in particular. That would be interesting because Aspinall's a black belt, and what's Curtis going to do? He's going to take him down. So I would like to see what Aspinall has off of his back maybe in that fight. So both fights for Aspinall make sense. Blaydes and Daukaus, the winner of that should probably fight Tom.
Yeah, we've called for that fight for a very long time, and I definitely like to see it happen. But I feel like they're on a collision course, maybe soon. But yeah, I think the wrestler sort of next would be, I think, the smart move for the UFC. Just see what he's as you mentioned, just to see what he looks like off his back. I think that's the smart one. Curtis Blaydes, he's going to get Tom Aspinall on his back without doubt in the fight. And this is where we get to learn how Tom Aspinall is on his back. Has he got that submission threat? And ultimately, can he get up? So it'll be a good matchup. I definitely agree with that one. But a fantastic performance from Tom Aspinall, and he gets all the praises from me, from all the fans. I mean, what a fantastic end to it. And it was a fantastic way. And the co-main event as well, that delivered. It was fantastic.
Oh, boy. Brennan Shaw predicted this would be the fight of the night, and I kind of scoffed at it. I actually thought that Allen would be looking to be a bit technical here. Allen is not the highest output fighter, and Dan Hooker is. So that was my thinking here. I was thinking Dan Hooker would outpoint him. I didn't think we would see anybody really get rocked here. But boy, was I wrong. These guys swung for the fences. As soon as Dan Hooker rocked Dan Hooker with a couple straight punches, Dan Hooker went into Cody Garbrandt mode. The guy refused to take a no for an answer in terms of not getting a finish. He didn't care that he was on wobbly legs. He swung back, reminded me of Clay Guida versus Diego Sanchez, and he was able to drop Arnold Allen there for a second. But Arnold Allen, of course, was the much quicker guy, and the damage had already been done to Hooker. His reflexes were completely shot after he was concussed. And eventually we saw a tremendous combo for Arnold Allen, which ended with a big head kick. And it ended in a standing TKO, a bunch of elbows from Allen. I think you maybe could have gone a bit longer before that, but nonetheless, this was a tough fight for Dan Hooker fans, but for Arnold Allen fans, man, couldn't have gone better because the big critique of this guy is he's not a big finisher. He doesn't have the most exciting fights, and he completely changed their narrative this time around. And he went for the kill, and I certainly believe that this fight being in front of a London audience definitely motivated him and drove him to perform like this.
I mean, we talked about Tom Aspinall having the best performance of his career, and I think this is Arnold Allen's best performance in his career. It was fantastic against Dan Hooker as well. His toughest test as well to date. You could say a former title challenger against. I can't. No, he wasn't. He's been in main events. He's been around. He's been around the block. He's fought Dustin Poirier, fought Michael Chandler. But if you look at where Dan Hooker's going at the moment in his career, it's kind of remind me like Tony Ferguson. He's on a bit of a decline. Not really look like he's going to pick up some wins, and the move down to featherweight, I was unsure about it because he cuts a lot of weight to get to 155. He got a nutritionist. He done it correctly to get one down to 145. He looked good on the scale. I'm going to be honest, he looked really good on the scale, and I thought maybe this is quite a turn, but I don't know. I just don't think we can see him take as much shots at 145 as he can at 155. I think the cut is a little bit too much for him. And the durability, I think he really sacrificed in this one. I think, as you talked about, Arnold Allen isn't the biggest finisher, but he finished Dan Hooker, and it was inside 2 minutes and 33 seconds. But what surprised me in this one is how quick, compared to Dan Hooker, was Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen was tremendously quicker with the footwork, the hands, everything. It never looked like Dan Hooker could, every time Allen was in, he was out, he was gone, he was landed at will. And I don't know what we can do with Dan Hooker now, but Arnold Allen, wow, fantastic performance. What is he on a 9-fight winning streak in the featherweight division? This guy is criminally underrated, and I feel like he's put his name back, put his name up there with the top of the division, and that call out as well of Calvin Kattar. I think that was a smart one.
What's even more impressive to me, Allen has a longer featherweight win streak than the current champion right now. That's definitely a notch on his belt. I feel like the biggest thing to blame with Dan Hooker is the damage he took in those 2 wars in 2020. He fought Paul Felder, and he really he got beat up in that one. And in the Dustin Poirier fight, he was a bit of a punching bag in that second round. Took huge damage in both fights. And now I feel like it's probably catching up with him. As I said, Arnold Allen historically been unable to put away guys, but he rocked Dan. And honestly, if anybody fights the way that Dan did, they probably get knocked out because he simply did not care about getting hit. And he paid the price there. I feel like he should go back to lightweight.
I do agree.
Too slow to compete at the high level at featherweight. That's just the unfortunate truth. And I feel like his best work was done at lightweight. Might be able to take more damage better at lightweight. So I think that's the move for Dan. But I don't see it happening in the end. And Allen definitely should get that Calvin Kattar fight. I don't think anybody doesn't want to see that. And we'll move on to Paddy the Baddy Pimlet's performance against Kazula Vargas. He had a first round rear naked choke here. And this was my pick for the fight. I felt that Paddy Pimblett was by far the better grappler, but this was not as smooth as I thought it would be. Vargas rocks him and takes him down and holds him down for almost 3 minutes. And then Paddy gets back up and he gets a judo toss. And then Vargas gets up his back like he usually does. And it didn't take long for Paddy to get that easy submission. And Molly McCann, who had just won earlier, she was out there to celebrate with him. It was such a cool scene to see those two celebrate in the octagon together. Paddy Pimblett has enormous momentum behind him. I don't think you can think of anybody else with just 2 UFC fights with this much hype.
Yeah, this guy's a superstar. Honestly, it's crazy what he brings to the table. The draw, he puts fans on seats, and he proved it this night as well. I mean, his entrance it's phenomenal. It's crazy. The music, him bouncing in, it's proper good. And then when he gets into the cage, he's serious. It's all business. He's staring down his opponent. And this guy he's got a character. And I mean, when I talked to him on an interview, you could feel it through the screen that this guy's got something about him, and he proved it once again. But there is a few holes that he needs to fix, though. I feel like the striking defense probably needs to, he needs to touch that up a little bit, and he gets clipped a lot. And against guys like Vargas, he probably wants a clean fight. He wants it more clean, getting a total dominance. I mean, a little bit of a scare in his first fight as well against Vandolini, and then obviously against Vargas. So things to work on for Paddy Pimblett. I do believe when he steps up, though, I feel that could be a little bit dangerous.
Surely he should avoid the guys in, like, say, the top 25 of the division. I don't believe he's ready yet, quite honestly, because in my opinion, he lost to Juicy J Erosa. I feel like he lost that fight.
Lost to Ned Narimani.
He lost to Ned Narimani, who never even sniffed the top 40 of this division. Paddy Pimblett is still a developing fighter, but that doesn't mean that he still can't fight in the UFC and do well for himself. I say we put him in there with Matt the Steamroller Frivola. There's no way that fight isn't exciting. Frivola only has fun fights, and Frivola's durability is not what it used to be, and Paddy definitely has some pop. Matt is also a brown or black belt under Matt Serra, so that would be an exciting grappling match too. I think that's the proper step up for Paddy.
Yeah, that's a good matchup. I like that. Definitely like to see the UFC take their time on Paddy. I think they will because they know he can bring in that sort of money and sort of crowd. So I believe he will. Well, they will take his time on Paddy. But another fantastic. Should we call it another fantastic episode of the Paddy Pimblett show? Because he's going to take over. He's going to be that cash cow of the UFC. But he just needs to prove it. He needs to prove in his fighting, and I think he will eventually. Just not too soon. But someone who hasn't fought in a while was good at Nelson. He came back into Takashi Sato, and wow, I feel like he's just went out there and proved him that although he was away for a long time, he was still working. He was still grafting, and he's got the win in dominant fashion.
Yeah, Gunnar Nelson has been plagued with injuries. He was actually supposed to come back a year ago, but he messes around and grapples with the mountain from Game of Thrones, and he injures his shoulder in the process. That was a really silly move on his part. And he's still not, if I'm not mistaken, he's still not 35. And he looked wonderful in this fight. He dominated the fight. On the feet, nothing happened of consequence. Gunnar Nelson got a takedown in every round. And Takashi Sato was very aware that he was the worst grappler here. So what he was focused on was defending the submission at all costs. And in the process, he didn't attempt to get up at all. And he simply did nothing but block his head and grab Gunnar's arm. And he got hammered with elbows and little hammer fist by Gunnar. Yeah, this was not the most exciting fight out there because Sato did everything he could not to get submitted. I had money bet on Gunnar to win by submission. And if he told me he would have 8 minutes of control time and be unable to submit Sato, I'd call you crazy. And that's what happened out there. Still good performance by Gunnar. He took absolutely no damage here. And I think he's ready for a quick turnaround. And that would be the move for him because he's not getting any younger. And he's got to make up for lost time, man. And let's not forget, he had competitive fights with 2 top 5 guys, Gilbert Burns and Leon Edwards. So there's still hope for him to make his way up in the division.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree. And as you talked about, he had some tough fights against Gilbert Burns and Leon Edwards. That was a former fight at the UFC London, wasn't it? So he's a good fighter. I feel like he put himself, as we talked about, he put himself back into the hat of sort of things. But as you talked about, he needs to stay active. Taking a short notice fight, why he's in shape, that would probably be a good idea. But he's got to wait for someone to potentially fall out. If someone falls out of that, that Luque Blam Howard fight, that could definitely be an option. But he's got to hope that someone falls out anyway. So hopefully we see Gunnar Nelson again. No injuries. Get him away from the octagon. But hopefully we see him soon. And someone else I want to see soon. That's Molly McCann. She put on a fantastic performance. She was looking good. Round 3, round 1, round 2, the striking's good. She's looking cool against a tall, tricky customer. I thought she was doing well. And then the round 3, just boom, out of nowhere. It looks like you could see that she was setting up. She was looking at her elbow. She was looking at Luana, and she just spam and then bam, landed sweetly on that chin. It was a fantastic knockout. And surely this has got to be the knockout of the year for the women's. I can't see anything else happening this year that is going to top that. It's phenomenal. Molly McCann, man, this is what the moment she wanted. She wanted that finish inside the UFC, and she got it. And I feel like this has just changed her life indefinitely. I know she came onto social media and she said it's changed her life, and I'm so proud. I'm so glad that is this. She's a likable woman. She's a fantastic fighter, and she's got charisma. She's such a great fighter. It's such a good moment to see her do her thing at the top of the division. Well, in the division, getting it done. But wow, what a finish! It was fantastic.
This was an unbelievable finish for Molly McCann. It simply doesn't get better than this. In the first round, she goes out there, rocks Carolina early, and I thought she was about to finish her early, but Carolina somehow survives the flurry. And I thought it could be a situation where we see McCann tire. Maybe Carolina somehow gets the win here. But McMahon turns things around, starts using her wrestling. She got big slams. I've never seen her entire skill set look better in this fight. Sure, she did slow down. She did lose some of the striking in the second round, but it didn't matter. She got a lot of control time, and she just had a field day against Luana Carolina here. And then third round, once again, she's not doing super well in the striking, but she knows that she has the knockout in her back pocket. She was training the spinning back elbow, and once she landed it, it was one of the most violent knockouts I've ever seen. Luana Carolina's eyes were still open when she fell. I was genuinely concerned for her health. She was out for a while, and when she got up, she obviously didn't know where she was. McCann scored herself the greatest knockout in women's MMA history. One of the best knockouts I've ever seen, male or female. It's going to be tough to beat for knockout of the year. I honestly don't see anybody beating this. McCann has now elevated her profile exponentially. She now signed to Barstool Sports, which is the same company that signed Patty Pimblett for $1 million. I know she's getting the same, but nonetheless, her name is definitely going out there, and I feel like she's set herself up for a top 15 opponent after this, without a doubt.
That's good to hear. I'm glad she got signed to Barstool Sports. They're really building a good, I don't know what to call it, a good list of members over there at Barstool. They've got Paddy, and as you mentioned now, they've got Molly McCann. So that you see where they're trying to get. It's good for them, and it's good for the athletes. They're getting paid more, so I'm all for it. So
yeah,
fantastic way of showing some respect. And then we're moving on to the next fight, and this was a game of inches. It was a game of inches. Jai Herbert almost had that finish, and then out of nowhere, Taporia. Wow. Oh my God.
You finally got it down, Lenny. Good to know. You interviewed Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert was pretty confident, and he had every right to be. He put the boots to Eli Taporia in the first round. He drops him with a huge head kick, and I think Eli Taporia is about to be done there, but I didn't know Taporia had this much heart in him. This is definitely a fight that gave me more confidence in Eli Taporia's future, and I think he probably can be champion at featherweight. This is obviously not his weight class, and it showed here. Herbert looked huge in there, and he really was piecing up Taporia. Taporia somehow survives, gets a takedown, and still just eats huge shots on the feet. I was watching it with a friend, and I told them Taporia has no shot on the feet at this point. He probably has to wrestle, and he was not getting it all that easily. He got 3 of his takedowns stuffed, so he was forced to stand with Jai Herbert. And I was thinking this was not going to be a winning night for Taporia, but the guy pulls a huge comeback. He uses the same combo he used against Damon Jackson, attacks the body, goes up with a huge hook, and sends Jai Herbert to that shadow round. Jai Herbert was completely out. No follow-up necessary. It was a walk-off KO for Taporia. His power translated up here at lightweight. I'm supremely impressed with this performance by Taporia. He had the best knockout of the night before McCann upstaged him.
Yeah, it was a game of inches, as I mentioned before. Jai Herbert was on the cusp of getting the job done. It was a few punches away. When he knocked him down and he initiated the grappling or tried to finish it, step in, and then Taporia grabbed that leg, and you just knew he was going to find a way out of that because he's so good at finding, as we've seen in this one, he's fantastic at finding his way out of trouble. And as you talked about, this was good for us to see because now we know Taporia can take a crack. He can take a crack and he come back and he can win the fight. And I totally agree. 155 is not his division. I think it goes back down to 145 pounds, and I think it's got to be next. It's got to be next.
Yeah, and I think his next opponent should be Sodiq Yusuff. Yusuff recently got the win over Alex Caceres, and Caceres actually got kicked out of the rankings by Taporia after that loss. So why not do that fight? I think that's a fight Taporia wins, and he's got a lot of momentum after this fight, especially after the brawl with Paddy. Yeah, let's not do that Paddy versus Taporia fight. I don't think that's
let's not do that.
You like Paddy. You're a big Paddy fan. You've interviewed him. Even you admit that's not the fight for Paddy. Now let's move on to the prelims. Mike Grundy lost via anaconda choke to Makwan Amirkhani. This is like the Stone Cold Stunner for Makwan Amirkhani. This is his finishing move. This is what he specializes at, and he got it. First round anaconda choke. I thought this was going to be a bit of a striking match here because both guys are really good wrestlers. But Mike Grundy, of course, he went back to his bread and butter, decided, let's just go for a takedown here. And he shoots in, and that was a bad move because Makwan, as I said, the anaconda choke is his finishing move most times. And he feeds Grundy feeds him his neck when they're dry. And he's stuck right to the cage, so he can't really get out of it. And he gets put to sleep. This was a really unfortunate situation for Grundy. He had his father who's suffering from cancer right there. It was a really sad scene, quite honestly. This was the bummer of the night on the card, but I do feel good for Makwan because I thought the guy was definitely going to get cut if he lost this one. I think he was on a 4-fight losing streak. This is something he definitely needed, and you could tell that he was solely focused on getting the win. Guy didn't even cut his hair. He was so focused on getting the win, and he did.
I mean, if there was one guy or one British or English guy that I wanted to win on this card, and all the rest of them lost, I would have picked Mike Grundy. You know, as the situation he was in, as you talked about, his dad being in the cage side, watching his son for the first time. They were crying as he was walking in. It was such an emotional scene, and then 57 seconds later, he gets choked out unconscious, and it really touched me enough. If there was one guy that I could guarantee won, that would have been Mike Grundy, and the rest lost. I wouldn't have cared about that. I would have cared about Mike Grundy winning in front of his family, his terminally ill dad. It was just such an upsetting scene. Something that we get put up with in MMA, but yeah, credit to Mike Grundy. He went in there, tried to get the job done. Tried to go for the takedown and just left his neck open. Mike won Americani. You can't play games with him down there, and he'll snatch up your neck in a split second. And this is what happened. As Mike Grundy said on his Instagram post as well, he's not sure what's next. I'm not sure what's next for Mike Grundy. I know he's got a son that he likes to, train and watch him compete. So maybe he goes into coaching his son full time. I don't think he'll retire, but it's definitely an option. But for Makwan as Americani, I think this was a job saver.
Yeah, Grundy is certainly a UFC level talent. I hope they keep him around. He definitely can fight with the best of them. And we'll move on to Shamil Abdurahimov's loss to Sergey Pavlovich. I had money on Pavlovich in the first round by knockout. That's a very specific pick, but that's how he's done it 13 times. The guy is a bulldozer, and he fought Shamil, who once was an absolute monster in the division. He gave Derek Lewis one hell of a fight before he lost, but he's 40 now. He's very slow, and the striking defense has never exactly been a strong suit. So in this fight, I knew the younger guy would go out there and get the job done quick, and that's what he did. Not much else to say in this fight. Pavlovich fought a good game plan, and he executed it.
Yeah, 100%. We knew how good Pavlovich was heading into this one. He had been away for a long time. 2019, Maurice Green was his last fight, and he stepped straight back in there against what was it, number 11, number 10 ranked in the world against Shamil, and he proved his worth. He proved how good he was. Today, I think that only loss of his career was against Alistair Overeem, and I feel like that was a big learning lesson. Since then, he hasn't lost, and this was his biggest win of his career. I do believe he's in the top 10 maybe now, or maybe on the edge. So definitely a top 10 fight for him next. This guy's an animal. He's a wrecking ball. He's a machine, and he showed it once again. He's got some heavy hands, and definitely like to see a good fight for him next at heavyweight. Another heavyweight contender that we see, coming back into the division. So it's good to see these fresh faces.
100%. And I think his next fight should be the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis just got knocked out by Tai Tuivasa. And Sergey is another guy that's a representative of the new blood in the heavyweight division. The guy definitely can he can knock out pretty much anybody in this division if he lands the right punch. So why not do that fight? That would certainly end in a knockout. And we'll move on to Paul Craig's first round triangle choke over Nikita Krillov. We both called it on the show, man. Paul Craig is a master off of his back. He's one of the very few fighters in the UFC that should pull guard. Honestly, I never say a guy should pull guard, but when you're as good as Paul Craig, go ahead and do it. Nikita Krillov, his kryptonite has always been submission defense. And I would also say it's fight IQ. Why are you taking down Paul Craig? That is how Paul Craig wins fights. And that's what he did out there. And he put himself in position to get triangle choke. I don't know what he went over in the game plan part of this, but if it was anything to do with getting on top and putting yourself in a position to get submitted, I don't know what his coaches are doing. Nikita could have easily won this fight. In fact, I still believe he's the better fighter. But Paul Craig, once again, goes out there and gets a submission after taking heavy ground and pound. Paul Craig, he should be rewarded in his next fight. Because not only has he beaten Nikita, he's beaten Jamal Hill and Magomed Ankalaev. Two guys that are looked at as potential title contenders. So Craig should definitely get a step up in his next fight. I'm not exactly sure who it is, but it's time for Craig to get a bigger fight.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. As we talked about with the Jay Herbert fight, he was on the cusp of win. And I think Krillov in this one, he was on the cusp of win. Them hammer fists, them hammer shots from the top, they were damaging Craig. I mean, I texted you straight after this fight and I said, Craig does not take shots very well. Every time he gets hit, it seems to affect him. He was in bad trouble. He was in bad trouble on the bottom, but he had to get up. He had to get up. Krillov can't stay on the ground with Craig there because you're putting yourself in a dangerous game. And that was it. Craig put, he pulled him towards him, locked up the triangle choke, and it was tight straight away. You could tell it was he was not getting out of that, and Krillov had to tap, and it was a fantastic victory for Paul Craig, as you mentioned, and definitely like to see him get a step up, another step up in competition. But it'd be interesting to see.
A name just came to mind. A guy that's been in a tough stretch against elite competition, Dominic Reyes. Let's do that fight. I think that would certainly end in a finish. And that would definitely be the toughest submission grappler that Reyes has ever fought. So I would love to see it.
Yeah, definitely. He did call out Anthony Smith after the fight, but we have now found out Anthony Smith versus Magomed Ankalaev is trying to get scheduled, as you talked in the work. So that one's out of the window for Paul Craig, but definitely I'd like to see that one. I think Dominic Reyes versus Paul Craig, that could be a headliner of a fight night. So definitely make that. I'd definitely like to see that one. But someone else who I'd like to see get a top 10 or a top 15 is Jack Shaw. But it was a close one.
Yeah, this was likely going to be fight of the night before they decided to just give every finisher a bonus. This fight was super exciting. It was competitive the whole way through. I actually scored this fight a draw. I gave the first 2 rounds to Timur Valiev. Not with any conviction. The first 2 rounds could have gone to either guy, but I felt like Valiev was landing a little bit of the more damaging strikes. And also, he got more offensive wrestling than I thought he would in this fight. But I'll tell you what, that 3rd round, if you scored the fight for Jack Shore just off that 3rd round, why not? Shore put an absolute beating on Timur in that 3rd round. I scored it a 10-8 simply because he got 2 knockdowns. He put Valiev in huge trouble. I have no doubt about Valiev's ability to recover now. The guy has been knocked down twice by Hiram Barcelos and gone on and won the round. Valiev still gave a good account of himself after being rocked. The guy is fearless. He begged for the fight to be brought to him, and it certainly was. Jack Shore, he looks better every time I see him fight. His striking is so good. His wrestling is so good. He attacks all 3 levels. I think the future for Jack Shore is super bright. He's 16-0 now, undefeated as an amateur as well. Jack Shore, I think we're going to see this guy fight for a belt one day.
100%, I do agree. He's 16-0, and it's a fantastic run that he's put on in his career. A super close fight against Timur Valiev. It was one that he needed, and he calls out Ricky Simon and Rafael Assunção. So maybe that's the forward, the move that the UFC make.
Yeah, I actually think he should fight the guy that was ranked number 15 at one point, Halian Paiva. I think that would be very interesting.
100%, I do agree. And we'll move on to a fight that you predicted to a T.
Yeah, this was a very proud moment for me in the night. We had McKenna coming in as a 2-1 favorite, and I was absolutely confused by it. I was so confused because at least Reed's already fought somebody with a comparable skill set to McKenna in Jasmine Jastovicius, and Reed beat McKenna here. And I'll be honest, McKenna could have won this fight if she had gone for more takedowns. But to be fair, she did get 4 of them stuffed. But she fought a lot of this fight on the feet, and she was never going to win the fight because Reed simply has much more experience in the striking realm. She showed out there. She had the heavier hands. I scored the first round for Reed. But, man, we did see some huge shots landed by Corey McKenna. But after that, it was just a systematic beating by Reed. Reed, as I said, better striker, stuffed the takedowns. I don't know why Reed wasn't a favorite in this fight. I really don't know. McKenna's not some wrestling champion or anything where she should be a 2-1 favorite. So definitely learning lesson for McKenna. She went to the hospital after the fight, so that lets you know the damage that Reed did in the fight. Very solid fight though. One of the few low points on the card for the UK fans. But you want to know what was one of the many high points on the card? Makhachev. I don't think you can ask for a better debut than what Muhammad had. He landed a flying knee on Cody Durden immediately, and then gets a guillotine choke, a ninja choke he calls it. Just completely overwhelms Cody Durden, and Durden taps in the first minute, just 58 seconds, to win his debut. The hype is real on this guy. A lot of people had their doubts about him. The majority of his career was in the amateur ranks, so I don't know how much you can take from that, but he now has 7 victories in the pro ranks, and he's doing unbelievably well for himself. Cody Durden has 17 fights, and he ran him over like he was an 0-0 prospect. Like I can't really believe how well this went for Makhachev. He's only 21. That's guys that are 30, or guys that are in their prime. They don't even get finishes like this. I think Makhachev will be the champion 5 years from now, 6 years from now, something like that. He's only going to improve. And when you're already putting away vets in less than a minute, I think we're looking at a future champion.
Yeah, I've got to agree, but I think he's going to do it quicker. I feel like he's going to really surprise us. We know with the flyweight division, it's not the most stacked division. You know, there's not many fighters. So I feel like he's going to have to get to the top. He's going to get to the top sooner than he will, you know, at bantamweight or etc. Something like that. And I feel like we're going to see him in the title picture in maybe in 2 years. I think we'll see him in the title picture in 2 years. He wants to be the youngest champion in the UFC, but we've heard that from a lot of fighters, countlessly, trying to beat John Jones' record. It's never happened. You've got to have the serious skill set to beat John Jones' record, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out. I think Makhachev, he's a fantastic fighter. He showed it. His wrestling is phenomenal, and then how we set this up, the flying knee, and then the guillotine, the ninja choker, he got it done. So fantastic performance, and what a debut! I'm keen to see what's next for him. There's one thing about Muhammad Makhachev is he loves to stay active. He loves to fight. So we'll probably see him in a fight in the near future, and maybe a few months, because he loves to fight. So definitely want to see him active.
100%. I call out Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott already is booked, so I think this division is wide open for him. Why not give him a guy like a Hajir Bontarin? I think this guy can have a competitive fight with anybody outside of the top 5 for sure. Maybe even guys in the top 5. So why not throw him right in there? He could be the flyweight Sean Jones. We'll just have to see. And now we will talk about UFC Columbus. Yes, the UFC is back on the road again. This is not emanating from the Apex. Thank goodness, because these fights with crowds are obviously better. They're way better. And we have a hometown guy fighting on the card, Matt Brown. I'm sure he'll get a huge ovation. But in the main event, we have Curtis Razor Blaydes taking on Chris Daukaus. And I think this is a good matchup for Curtis Blaydes. Chris Daukaus doesn't have a wrestling background. Curtis Blaydes beats everybody that's not named Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou. Is there anybody else he lost to? Yeah, Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou. Those are the only guys he's lost to. And those are the heaviest hitters we have ever seen. Daukaus does not have that same kind of power. In fact, you could argue he's actually a light heavyweight fighting up, but he's got really quick hands, and he's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, I think this is a good fight for Curtis. As I said, he will get takedowns. There's no doubt about it. And I don't think Daukaus has shown to me that he can fight a long fight. The guy has gassed out on many occasions in the past, and he's gotten finished before. Doesn't exactly have the greatest durability. If you look at all of his UFC fights, he gets a quick finish in all of them. The only fight that left the first round was the Shamil Abdurrahimov knockout. We know that win doesn't really tell us much. Curtis Blaydes is just a different monster, man. This guy could be champion in a different universe. And I'm still not counting out his ability to become champion in the UFC in a couple of years. I think we see Curtis Blaydes tire out Chris Daukaus with the grappling, get a takedown every round. I don't even see Daukaus getting up. And once Daukaus is too tired to defend himself, we will either see Curtis Blaydes smash him with ground and pound elbows in the fourth round, or he can get a finish similar to the one he got against Junior Dos Santos. He can fake the level change and just come up and hit him with a big overhand right and finish him off. I think Daukaus will be toast once he gets tired.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. And I've always been high on Curtis Blaydes. I feel like he could probably beat Derek Lewis again. And if they fought, I feel like he's got a really good chance of beating Derek Lewis. Against Francis Ngannou, that's a different story. Francis Ngannou is a different beast. But yeah, I feel like he has all the makers to beat Derek Lewis, the all the makers to beat Chris Daukaus, and I think he's going to make it look. I think he's going to make it look simple. In his last fight, I can't remember who did he. There we go, against Jairzinho, and everyone said it was boring, but you know he did what he had to do, and he got the job done against the UFC gave him no favors with power punches. They gave him Francis Ngannou, and then they gave him Lewis, and then they gave him Jairzinho. Like, are they trying to get this guy, mentally ill? It was crazy. But now they've given Chris Daukaus, who I believe doesn't have that one punch knockout power. He's just got that combination. Combinations. He throws a lot of strikes per minute, and if a lot of them add up, we could probably see Curtis Blaydes in trouble. But I just don't see it happening. I think Curtis Blaydes shoots in the first minute, and he gets him down for that first round. He keeps him down for that first round, and then we see Chris Daukaus come out in the second round looking not the shadow of himself. So I think the wrestling is going to play a big part, and I feel like we're going to have another storyline of the fans saying they're upset with Curtis Blaydes' performance. He was wrestling too much, etc., etc. But I like to watch it, so I think he's going to do a good job. I think he's going to do what his coaches are going to tell him to do. He's a tactician. He's not there to really entertain fans. He's a tactician. Go in there, get a job done, and win. That's all Curtis Blaydes has on his mind, is just win. And I feel like he's going to do it. I think he's going to wrestle him. And I feel like the size advantage as well is it may not look massive, but I feel like it's going to be. I feel like we're going to see it in the octagon. I feel like Curtis Blaydes is going to look like the bigger man.
Curtis Blaydes has 25 pounds on Chris Daukaus.
There we go.
He's going to be way too heavy, way too big, and he's going to be the more physically imposing guy in there. I think this is a really good way for Curtis Blaydes to get more momentum, and as I said, maybe find himself in the octagon with Tom Aspinall.
100%,
Moving on,
I do agree.
In the co-main event, we have the return of Joanne Wood after a loss to Tyler Santos. And she's fighting Alexa Grasso, who has found real success and I would say new life in the flyweight division. She could not make strawweight anymore, but some people forget Carla Esparza has not exactly had the easiest win streak because in that fight against Alexa Grasso, that was a split decision. A lot of people argued that Grasso won the fight, and Grasso was very close to submitting Carlos Barza, who very rarely gets submitted. So Grasso has world-class skills, and she's fighting Joanne Wood, who's on the decline. To see Grasso be such a big favorite is pretty confusing because this will be a striking match, and it's not like Grasso is some Muay Thai world champion or anything, or some champion boxer. She's got really good skills, but it's not like she's gonna absolutely overwhelm Joanne Wood. Joanne Wood has very high output in all of her fights. She arguably beat. In fact, I thought she beat Lauren Murphy. The Kayla King fight was super close. Joanne Wood has a lot of close fights and has a couple quality wins. This will be a close fight, but at the end of the day, I will pick Grasso to win this, just because Joanne Wood has shown. I would say she does throw with volume, but she doesn't show the worst of intentions with some of the strikes, if you get what I mean. In the Murphy fight, she was throwing little leg kicks without a lot of steam on them. I think Grasso will be the one moving forward, and I think they will look at Grasso's punches and give him more respect than Joanne Wood's leg kicks. So I will pick Grasso to win this, but don't be crying to me if you go out there and lose money on Grasso, because I'm not super confident.
I mean, I've got Grasso too, so that's two of us. So I think Grasso gets it done. We know how good Wood is striking, but I think Grasso is, if I'm correct, just as good. So boxing's good. This is a tough fight, as you were talking about, and it'd be interesting to see who gets this one done. It's a very close fight, and you're not really confident with either pick, really, are you two? But I'm going with Alexa Grasso. I feel like she's got all the meanings to get this one done. Stepping up from strawweight, as you talked about, to flyweight. And Joanna Woods not been on the best runners late. She's always looked, when she's getting pushed back, a little bit fragile. I know it's a bit weird, but she gets pushed back a little bit too easy. And I feel like Alexa Grasso is going to get in her face and put it on her.
Yeah, I really believe that this will be a fairly entertaining fight. Grasso just beat Macy Barber in the last fight, and Macy Barber hits really hard. So for Grasso to get the judges to be on her side against a hard hitter like Barber, I don't think it'll be super hard for her to get the win against Joanne Wood here by split decision. And we'll move on to the hometown guy, Matt Brown, fighting Brian Barberina. This is going to be a banger, without a doubt. Both guys always come to entertain the fans, and they're usually getting it done inside the distance. Matt Brown, he's definitely a declining fighter. He's 41. In his last fight, he didn't look like it. In the first round, he did drop the first round to Diego Lima, but in the second round, he goes out there and sends him to the shadow round with a huge right hand. Couldn't be more impressed with Matt Brown at his age. Doesn't have the prettiest record, but he's given some really good fighters tough fights. The David Meyer fight, that was a fun fight. The Robbie Lawler fight, also pretty competitive. And Barberena, on the other hand, even though he's younger, I think he's actually taken more damage. The Vicente Luque fight, I really think, changed the trajectory of his whole career. That was a vicious beating he took by Vicente Luque. And after that, he hasn't taken a shot the same way. Randy Brown goes out there and knocks him out. In the Jason Witt fight, we thought it was a foregone conclusion that if they strike, Barberena is the one doing the big damage, which that was true, but Barberena himself gets rocked big time by Jason Witt. That's not a good look at all. And you're fighting a guy that hits harder than Jason Witt. I think this is a fight where I got to take Matt Brown here, because also Matt Brown has the wrestling in his back pocket. He used it against Carlos Condit. Will he use it here? I'm not sure, but I think Matt Brown has more ways to win. And assuming he doesn't get cracked by a big right hand like Barberena landed against Vicente Luque, I think Matt Brown wins this fight by decision, especially when you got the hometown judges on your side. Why not pick Matt Brown here in a pick-up fight?
Yeah, this is a pick-up fight. As you can see on the odds, is there -110 for each. So This is a close one. We talked about the last one being close, but this is super close. It's, both men can get this one done. We see Barberino, as you talked about, he took a lot of damage in the past. And as of late, he's not looked too great. He's not looked great. But Matt Brown, as of late as well, he's looked the better man. He's looked the better fight, even though he's aging, 40 years of age. He was getting it done. He's still knocking people out. And that I don't see him knocking out Brian Barberino because he's too tough for his own good. But although it could happen, but Matt Brown is a legend. He's a veteran. He's been around the block. He's fought some of the best in the world. And so has Barberino. He's fought some good guys at the top of the division, but he's just not been around as much as Matt Brown. I don't think it's going to come to experience. I just think it's going to come down to durability and conditioning. I think the conditioning is going to play a massive factor. Not too long ago, Barberino, if I'm correct, was on the hospital bed. It was on the verge of
death.
There we go, death. He's on the verge of death, and you just want to know where he's at since recovering from that. So I'm not sure on this one, but I do agree with you. I think Matt Brown gets it one done. I don't know how he gets it done, but I think Matt Brown wins.
Yeah, I think both guys can knock each other out. I think these guys will probably be walking away with the fight of the night bonus. And I think Matt Brown wins this fight. As I said, if he doesn't get rocked, because Barberino, the power's not left him. But when you lose in Darian Weeks in a close fight, Darian Weeks was like 5-0. He was supposed to be on the contender series. Not exactly an elite talent. And Matt Brown has much more experience than Darian Weeks, I think. I think Matt Brown finds a way to win. I really do. I originally thought Barberino knocks him out, but when you really dig deep, Barberino might be in tougher shape, which is pretty hard to believe, considering you got a guy Matt Brown with 18 losses. But that's just the unfortunate truth. And we'll move on to Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara-France. In my opinion, the UFC should have put this as the main event because both guys, I really feel that the winner of this fight fights the winner of Moreno and Figueiredo in their fourth fight. Yeah, you heard that right. Fourth fight happening in July, according to Era Hawani. The winner of this fights for the belt, and the stakes going to be higher in this fight. As I said, Askarov coming in at -330, big favorite, and Kai Kara-France should not be this big of an underdog. The guy, his nickname is Don't Blink, and he really wasn't proven that to be true in his UFC wins early, but in his last two, he's gotten big knockouts. Knocked out the former bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt in the first round. Before that, he knocks out Rogerio Bonterman after facing a lot of adversity. Even in the Brandon Royval fight, he drops him. Kai Kara-France is making improvements, but at the end of the day, will not be enough to beat Askar Askarov. Askar Askarov went to a draw with the former champion Brandon Moreno in his UFC debut. He came in at 10-0, and since then, he's got on a run. He beats Pantoja. He beats Joseph Benavidez.
Tim Elliott.
Yeah. And Tim Elliott, man. He makes Tim Elliott look bad, which is hard to do. He did get taken down that Tim Elliott fight, though. But, yeah, he rocked Tim Elliott in that fight. Askar Askarov's striking is certainly coming along. And you can't count out the fact that the guy's he's on the younger side. And he's definitely got improving striking, improving cardio. I feel he's going to get chin checked by Kai Kara-France in this fight. He will get rocked, but it won't matter because Askar Askarov will get a ton of control time in this fight. And, yeah, I think that's the game plan for Askarov. Get a ton of takedowns and just make Kai Kara-France work. And, yeah, I think we've got a huge advantage in Askarov in the wrestling department, but don't be surprised if we see Kai Kara-France pull off something crazy.
I mean, it's happened before, as you talked about against Bolatun. He pulled off that victory after getting his back taken or being in the back position, defended that back position for like 4 minutes in a round. He defended it off. That gives me a little bit of hope of him being able to survive and getting the job done. But I don't know what it is. I'm siding Askarov in this one. I see him getting it done. I think he's a dangerous striker. He's a dangerous grappler. He's always I think he's more of a position of a submission guy, if I'm correct. And his striking is, it's powerful. We've seen it in the Tim Elliott fight. He can hurt you, and I just see him getting it done. As we talked about him with another fight earlier on, I think he's got more ways to win in this one.
Yeah.
He uses the grappling, he can use the striking. But if you do stand there and strike with Kai France, that's not a good game plan. I think he's got to try and shoot as quick as possible. Get him the strength out of his arm, suck him out, and just try and get that strength down. But I think Nazarov is going to take this one. It's going to be a close fight. I think the odds are a little bit, as you still talked about, a little bit too far stretched.
But Askarov, as I said, still the rightful favorite. I'm picking him to win by unanimous decision. And we'll move on to a fight that I'm very much looking forward to. These are two guys I'm a big fan of. Ilir Latifi versus Alexei Oleinik at heavyweight. Let's be honest, Latifi is not a heavyweight, but that doesn't stop him from being effective against legitimate heavyweights. In his first fight, he fights Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is one of the best heavyweight fighters of all time. And in my personal opinion, he won that fight. He got over 10 minutes of control time in that fight. Sure, Derek Lewis landed the heavier shots on the feet, but when you're just getting completely out-positioned and you cannot get up, I really think that's a situation where the TV should have won that fight. But those Houston judges, they've come in handy for the hometown guys. I'll just say that. And in his second fight, he goes out there against Tanner Boser, and I thought he actually did lose that fight. So it kind of evens it out, I guess. Latifi got dropped in the second round. I thought he was going to get finished, but he survived. But once again, he's getting takedowns quite easily. He's gotten a takedown in all of his UFC fights. Doesn't matter who he's fighting, he gets a takedown. But it's all a matter of how much damage does he do when he's on top. But here's a different situation for Latifi. He's fighting a very dangerous submission grappler in Oleinik. I believe the guy's got around 40 submission wins. I don't think he's ever been the better striker in any of his matchups, really. But here against Latifi, he's going to hope that Latifi takes him down and he's going to try something off of his back. Latifi's never been submitted. So that's something on the Latifi side. And he's got more power. He's quicker. Oleinik is one of the oldest guys on the roster. He's obviously showing his age in his fights. I think Latifi could knock him out here, but I think Latifi will more likely pace himself and get a decision. If I were Latifi, I would not even take him down. I would just outbox him. That's definitely a path to victory for Latifi, but I feel like Latifi's just so ingrained in his wrestling. He's out of the 5-star gym in Sweden, training with Hamza and Alexander Gustafsson. He always goes to wrestle, and I think this won't be different. I think he gets takedowns and avoids the submissions from Oleinik. I think he should be an even bigger favorite.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think this is going to be a close one in the grappling. As you talked about, Oleinik is a fantastic submission threat off his back, on top, anything. And Latifi, that's where he does his best work, is wrestling. I think he cancels out. I think he's going to be able to evade the submission threat of Alexei Oleinik. I feel like Latifi is going to feel comfortable on the ground with him. I feel like where he's not going to feel comfortable is on the feet, because that's what he's not used to. But he can get it done on the feet. We've seen his power. This guy can throw bombs. He hits like an absolute truck. He's always been quite a small guy in the heavyweight division, but if you look at that, 5'10", 6'2", that's not the worst. It's not the worst. So he's I know Oleinik's quite a short heavyweight, but Latifi is so short to be a heavyweight. It's ridiculous. He's definitely a light heavyweight, but he's just a blown up a heavyweight, fighting up a heavyweight. But I feel like he's got all the meanings to get this one done, and I think Oleinik is definitely, as you talked about, definitely showing his age, definitely slowing down. But he always looks in better condition. It's crazy.
Yeah, Latifi. I really think this will be a fight that gets him more respect in the heavyweight division. As I said, Derek Lewis he's fought for the belt twice, and Latifi beat him in my book. So I think Latifi should be ranked in this division, and I think he should be in the top 10. Maybe he gets the respect after he beats Olenek here, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a good fight for Latifi. And we'll move on to a super exciting striking battle. Mark Jakisi versus Vyacheslav Borshev. I love this fight. This is a perfect fight for Borshev, in my opinion, in terms of the style, because he doesn't have to deal with a wrestler in his Contender Series fight. He dealt with the wrestler in his first UFC fight. Dealt with the wrestler. He doesn't have to deal with it here, so he's going to be at liberty to throw those hands and those kicks. And Jakisi, he's now looked fantastic his last couple fights. He's been a big favorite in a lot of his fights, and he's still lost them. I think Vyacheslav is the better striker here, obviously. He's kickboxing champion. He's got the heavier hands. Sure, he's dealing with a reach disadvantage here, but he's shown the ability to just drag his opponents into a brawl and land the big strike. He doesn't care about getting hit. He really doesn't. He knows he can take those shots and hit you right back with him. I think we see Jakisi get knocked out in the second round here.
Yeah, this. Sorry, my voice. It's been a long week for UFC London. This is a fantastic fight, as you were talking about. Definitely going to be fight. This is my candidate for fight of the night. I feel like these two are going to throw down. They're going to exchange some big blows. They're going to trade. DeCasey, he burst onto the scene inside the UFC with that Tumi Packalin knockout, and he spun him round and done all that. This guy's got heavy hands. He definitely can connect. But Borshev, as you talked about in the Contender Series against Chris Duncan, a guy who's been on the show. I've interviewed him. Chris Duncan is no slouch. He's a good fighter. He's been over in Bellator. Now he's fighting over in Cage Warriors. He's a good fighter. And Borshev, no disrespect to Chris Duncan, made it look easy. He made it look easy. Then he came in against Dakota Bush, made that look easy. And now he's stepping up against Mike DeCasey. And no disrespect, I think he's going to make it even more easier because he's not got that threat of a takedown, as you talked about.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of the Edson Barbosa versus Giga Chikadze fight, where Chikadze didn't look super impressive in certain fights because he was dealing with the takedown threat. But once you put a kickboxer in his home, he's never going to look better. I think Vyacheslav Borshev will earn himself a performance of the night bonus with a big KO here. Jakisi, he got stiffed up by a jab by Rafael Alves in his last fight. Got hit with a flying knee and then a guillotine. Vyacheslav Borshev, he trains at Alpha Mill, and who knows, he could get himself a guillotine. I'm sure he's practicing that. That's their favorite submission. But I think Jakisi will fall over when he gets hit by Borshev, whether it be a body shot or a big right hand. I think Vyacheslav has all the makings of a guy that people will look at as one of the best strikers in the whole UFC. Now let's move on to the prelims. I'm surprised this is on the prelims. Neil Magny has been around for a while. He's fighting Max Griffin. I think this is kind of a favor that the UFC is doing to Max Griffin. He's 36 now. He's getting a bit older, and if he really wants to make a run at the belt or just fight ranked guys, it's now or never. In his last fight, he beat Carlos Condit. That was a really good fight. But he got rocked against Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit has maybe the most underrated chain in MMA history. Never been dropped ever, and he's fought some of the heaviest hitters you could think of at welterweight. Max Griffin was able to rock him, and he used a bit of his wrestling in that fight too. Max Griffin, even though he's 36, I think he's in his prime. Never has performed better, and he's fighting Neil Magny, who. Yeah, I guess you could argue he's in his prime as well. He's reliably the guy to shut down prospects. He beat Li Jingliang. He beat Anthony Rocco Martin. He was on a good run there. And it was the momentum was shut down by Michael Chiesa. But Griffin, of course, is not going to have that kind of wrestling to threaten Neil Magny. He's also going to be at a reach disadvantage and a height disadvantage, as Neil Magny will usually have that against everybody. And one thing he always has against everybody is that cardio. That cardio for Neil Magny is always a tool. He doesn't even go out there and go for knockouts. He just wants to make his opponent feel miserable. He wants to drag the fight out. He doesn't care if he drops the first round. He'll punish him late. That's what he's going to do to Max Griffin. Maybe he gets cracked in that first round. But come the second and third, we know who's going to have the higher output and who's going to be doing more work. It's going to be Neil Magny. The guy he's so reliable, and Max Griffin doesn't have the scary power or the wrestling or the BJJ to threaten Neil. I think Neil is a really good bet here at minus 230.
I've got to agree once again. I think that, if you look at Max Griffin, who's fought recently, Kenan Son, when he had that late minute main event or co-main event.
Yeah, co-main event. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he starched him in 30 seconds. And then we had obviously Carlos Condit. And then I feel like, as you talked about, the UFC had given him a favor for, stepping in, fighting the Condit, and now he's fighting a Neil Magny. But I feel like this is as far as, no disrespect to Max Griffin, I feel like he's also been on the show here as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is as far as he's going to go. I think Neil Magny is a different type of animal. I think if he puts on a run together, I think he can get in the top 10. I have a lot of respect for Neil Magny. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think he can be in that top 10, top 8, top 5, but he just needs to fight smart fights. And I feel like this is a good matchup for Neil Magny. I think he's going to get it done. I think the striking, he's very underrated with that. His wrestling is good. He just mixes it up. That's one thing with Neil Magny. He's one of the best in the world at mixing it up. He does everything well, and I think this is what we're going to see. I think Neil Magny is going to mix up, get the job done, and I just don't see Max Griffin winning this one. I think Neil Magny. I think this is going to be a 30-27 Neil Magny.
Yeah, I agree with you here. And Neil Magny, he might have an interesting opponent in his next fight. It could be Daniel Rodriguez or a guy like Kevin Holland. Either way, Magny probably is going to have to fight a prospect again. That's just the spot he's in, and he's going to shut down Max Griffin's 3-fight win streak here. And we'll move on to a women's bantamweight matchup. Sarah McMahon is taking on Carol Hossa. Carol Hossa has been seen as the girl that is probably going to be champion in the next couple of years. She's on a really good run, and she's notorious for her high output. She lands over 100 strikes in the majority of her fights. She lands an average of almost 8 significant strikes per minute. So she's always busy in her fights. And she's shown really good wrestling. She's taken her opponents down, and in her last fight, that was her best performance ever. She fought Betch Cahera in her last fight. Cahera usually finds ways to make fights close. That was not a close fight. She got rocked hard many times. She just got teed off on. Sarah McMahon is going to be the hardest matchup we've seen Hossa fight. She's obviously the best wrestler. McMahon takes down everybody that isn't named Rousey or Nunes. But her cardio and submission defense is always a problem. Hossa's a black belt, and she's got good cardio. So this is probably going to be a bad night for Sarah McMahon. McMahon, I say she wins the first round, but after that, it's going to be harder for her to get the takedown. I think Rosa stuffs it, and she absolutely puts a beating on McMahon on the feet. I'm not sure if she gets a finish, but I certainly think she rocks her and puts a beating on her. That's just what I see here. She could also get, say, an armbar off of her back if McMahon simply just can't defend herself super well because she's tired. That's just going to be the story of this fight. Rosa weathering the McMahon storm and maybe finding a finish, but also she wins by unanimous decision.
I'm pretty sure it's McMahon notoriously known for winning that round one, winning that round 2, dominating the fight, and then in the round 3, I believe didn't she get submitted against Juliana
Pena, yeah. It's crazy that she was winning that fight because Pena went on to win the belt.
Yeah, it's crazy. So she was winning, against Julia Pena, as I said, and then she got submitted. I feel like that's been like the story of her fight, where she's winning these fights against these big name women, and then she gets just slips up and loses the fight. As she talked about, she's fought against Ronda Rousey. fought against Amanda Nunes. And she's been there, she's fought some of the best in the world, but I think Cara Rosa is the next generation at 135 pounds of the women's. She's put on a good streak, and I don't think it stops Saturday. I think she's going to beat Sarah McMahon.
Yeah, and I really feel like I don't know what it is with Sarah McMahon with that cardio. She's a silver medalist in the Olympics. I feel like she maybe should have had a better career, but I feel like Rosa, as I said, she should really shine here and start getting more respect, move her way up in the rankings. I think Rosa is the future champion. I really think she is. We'll move on to Chris Gutierrez versus Dana Bakary. I love this fight. This is good. This is going to be a striker's delight. Chris Gutierrez is in a spot here where he's not fighting a wrestler, and that's a spot he's been wanting to be in for a long time. He's gotten taken down in the majority of his fights. He actually got 10-8'd by Cody Durden when they fought. Cody Durden's a flyweight, so that takedown defense for Gutierrez is always a problem. Probably because the guy throws constant leg kicks. I would say the majority of his strikes he throws are leg kicks. And Dana Bakary has historically been given trouble by leg kicks. When he fought Aleksandar, got laid up with some leg kicks. And to see Gutierrez as an underdog here, I'll take him here. I think he's going to punish Bakary's legs. Bakary is, I think Bakary will get the sting taken off his punches because don't get me wrong, the guy hits hard. He beat Guido Canetti by knockout, beat Kevin Natividad by knockout. The guy's got real power, but the sting will be taken off the punches by the leg kicks. If Guido Canetti is making Waka funny after some leg kicks, imagine what Gutierrez will do. Gutierrez has a win over Timur Valiev. Was that a robbery? Yes, it was, but a win is a win in my book. So Gutierrez, he's just reliable, I would say, to just throw in high output of strikes, also being leg kicks. And against Bakary, unless Bakary gets a knockout here, I think Gutierrez will fight a good game plan here. I really like his coach Mark Montoya. He's a really good game planner. I'm going to pick Chris Gutierrez here. He doesn't have a ton of losses, man. He's been on huge win streaks. Bakary has less experience. I'll take Gutierrez here as an underdog.
Yeah, the only loss that I can think of the top of my head from Chris Gutierrez was against Ronnie Barcelos in his UFC debut, where he got submitted. And then against Timur Valiev as well. There we go. So that's two high-level fighters, and it shows that he's been there with them. He hasn't got the better of them, but he's been in there with some good fighters. And since that, his debut against Ronnie Barcelos, where he didn't get the win, he's been perfect, except from that draw against
Cody Durden.
Cody Durden. He's won. And I just don't see that happening. I do see this happening. I think his win streak continues. I think he gets the job done against Dana. It's going to be a tough fight. As you're talking about, Dana was getting trouble with the leg kicks in his past few fights, and against Chris Gutierrez, who has a stoppage via leg kicks. Oh man, you're in for a bad day. And I don't think we're going to see another stoppage with leg kicks. But my gosh, I think we're going to see maybe a stoppage late, round 3. Or maybe a decision. I know that there's a lot. I know Chris Gutierrez has been to a lot of decisions, so maybe that's the play. So I'll choose Chris Gutierrez decision. I think that as you talked about them odds, if I'm the odds maker, I'm probably going the other way around. I'm switching it.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I'm picking Chris Gutierrez to win a unanimous decision in this fight, and we'll move on to Aliashev Hiziev, I'll say that, versus they have not updated this on the ESPN website. So if you're watching this on YouTube, his opponent is not Abus Magomedov. His opponent is Denis Telulian, I guess his name is. Denis is an Extreme Couture product, and he trains with the best at Extreme Couture, like Sean Strickland, like Chris Curtis. He's been in Sean's corner many times. I feel like he's definitely the kind of guy that Sean Strickland likes to fight because the guys kill or be killed. And I'm sure Sean Strickland is the guy doing the killing in that gym. But nonetheless, he's getting good reps in with good sparring partners. But he's fighting by a country mile the worst matchup he's had in his career. Aleksandar Krillov is I would say the model Russian wrestler. What you think he does if you don't know him. The guy will take you down. He will maul you with ground and pound or look for a submission. It's very much that simple. And on the feet, he can definitely knock you out. He's short for this division. Doesn't have a crazy reach, but he's an absolute murderer, man. I have no doubts this guy will find himself in the top 15 with his style. And Denise is a first-round knockout guy or bust. That's just what he does. Either he knocks his opponent out or he gets knocked out. So he's going to swing a wild hook. He's going to get taken down. And I say he gets submitted in the first round. His rehab, he got it done like in a minute on the Contender Series. This guy is the real deal, man. I don't know why anybody would pick Denise.
Yeah, I mean, he's 10-5. His career's been up and down, win one, lose one, and he's lost against some of the, I know to his opponents, but some mediocre opponents. And if you compare him or his opponents to Kizarev,
Alias Krillov, and
there's just levels above. So Krillov, I think he's going to make it look easy, but this is short notice, and I think it was just right place, right time.
Yeah, I really think that the only reason Denise is in the UFC is because he's the guy that held his hand up. Aliasab has had a tough time fighting opponents. Guys always pull out of fights. Boost pulled out of the fight. There was nobody else except Denise, who's Strickland's trading partner. He was like, if I'll fight him if you guys sign me. And they couldn't find anybody else, which shows you guys are already ducking him, man. I think he's the real deal, man. Let's move on to Jennifer Maia versus Manon Fiorot. I love this fight. This is the perfect step up for Manon. She's looked fantastic in all of her fights, man. She started off with the Tiki over Victoria Leonardo.
She's a modest 420 favorite? What?
I think that's a bit fair. I think I would put her minus 300. We saw Jennifer Maia lose to fighters like this many times. She fought Kaylin Chukagian, who has obviously a different style. She has a boxing style. But Manafero is not entirely different. In fact, I think she's better. She will have a higher output, mix in more leg kicks. And I really like the Manafero product. I had doubts about it. I really did. I actually picked her to lose against Mayra Bueno Silva because I thought Mayra was the best grappler she had fought. I thought she could find an armbar off of her back, but what does Manafero do? She gets takedowns multiple times, and she's not even threatened by the guard of Mayra Bueno Silva. Bueno Silva submitted Jillian Robertson, the girl with the most submissions in the division. So Manafero has a really good defensive skill set on the ground, and she can take it there as well. I know what a lot of people are going to bring up. Maia, she took a round off the champ, Valentina Shevchenko. But I feel like that was a situation where she capitalized off of Valentina's mistake. Valentina went to take her down. She tripped Valentina, and she played safe. She just stayed on top there. She's not the one that goes for the takedowns in her fights. A lot of people thought she could give Chukagian some problems by taking her down. She does not take down people. She's a striker. And she does pretty well for herself striking. She comes out of the Shudo Box gym. She's got one good boy tie, but Manafero will not let her get close here. I don't see it happening. I see Manafero outpointing her for 15 minutes here. You were quite surprised by the odds, but me, not so much. I think Manafero by decision is a good bet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, although I was surprised by the odds, I got to agree, Manafero gets this one done. I think I remember telling you her last fight, I was like, you need to be on this train, and you weren't believing. You said, no, I'm not on the train. She's going to lose this fight. And then she won the fight, and I said, are you on the train now? And you went, yes. Yeah, I'm on the train. So I'm on the Flory train. I think she gets it one done. I was just a little bit surprised by the odds. I thought, it's her biggest step up in competition. She's fighting Jennifer Maia, but she's going to rise to the occasion. She's going to prove that she is the top 10, top 5 worthy. She's a fantastic fighter. She's fighting out of France. I know the UFC You know, they want to go France this year, so that's a big product for the UFC. She's going to be a huge name probably out there. When she puts herself on the map, when they hold like a Paris card or something like that, she fights. Exactly. So this woman's got a fantastic future. So, and it's not going to stop against Jennifer Maia. She's going to win this one. I think she's going to make it look good. I think we're going to talk about it next week, and we're thinking, wow, this girl's got real talent. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if she can finish her. It really wouldn't. This is one thing that I see Minota Flory. She's got finishing instincts. She can finish. You know, I can probably guarantee she could probably finish anyone.
Valentina couldn't finish Jennifer Maia. Valentina, she goes for the kill these days. So I was actually surprised by Maia, just her durability in that Valentina fight too. So I see Manafero wins a decision here. And I think after this fight, why not do Ferro versus Shevchenko? Is there anyone else? Honestly, let's be real. Is there anyone else for Shevchenko after she beats Tyler Santos? I say Manfrero might be one fight away from the title shot. That's just the state of the division right now.
Well, maybe, you know, Jessica Andrade, but Jessica Andrade is actually going back down. So
yeah, she's got a main event coming up against Amanda Lemos. That's going to be a fun one.
And I think that's a tough fight for Jessica Andrade as well. So
yeah, another fun one will be Mateusz Nicolau versus David Dvorak. These guys have fantastic records. Neither of them has more than 3 losses, and they have nearly. Nicolau has nearly 20 wins. Dvorak has 20 wins. These are really high-level fighters, and they really show that the flyweight division has world-class talent. The fact that Nicolau was released during the time that they were thinking about railing themselves to the flyweight division is crazy. The guy's a really good fighter. He came back and beat the Star Boy. I can't remember the Star Boy's name at this moment, but
Manel Cap.
Yeah, Manel Cap. He beat him. And then he fights Tim Elliott. He loses that first round. That second round, he gets mojo. Third round, he gets the takedown of Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott can't get up or doesn't want to get up. So Nicolau's a really tremendous fighter, a super well-rounded fighter. He can give you problems on the feet and on the ground. He's a black belt, and he's fighting Dvorak, who's a different fighter, but also a well-rounded fighter. He's got power in his hands, good leg kicks, and he's also a good submission grappler. So at the end of the day, it's very hard to know what the game plan will be for each guy because they can both get it done where they want to. So I will go with Nicolau at the end of the day in this fight just because I've seen him against better competition. Nicolau, as I said, beat Manel Kape, who's obviously, in my opinion, is a better striker than David Dvorak. One thing David Dvorak has going for him is a 68-inch reach, which is pretty good for flyweight. But I do think Nicolau can have success in terms of landing power shots on the feet, maybe countering Dvorak's leg kicks because Dvorak loves to use leg kicks. I also think, if you ask me who the better wrestler is, I think it might be Nicolau. I will slightly lean Nicolau in that department. So I don't have any kind of confidence in this fight in terms of picking a winner, but Nicolau being an underdog, I will side with him.
Yeah, this is as you were talking about. This is a close fight. This is a tough one to pick. But if you go to pick, I've got to agree. I'm going with Nicolau. I think he's as you talked about, fought a better competition. His only loss I can think off the top of my head is Justin Ortiz, and he got clipped in that one and lost. But I just don't see Dvorak being able to clip Nicolau. This is a tough fight to pick. But I'm giving the slight edge to Nicolau. But David Dvorak is a fantastic fighter. And but I think Nicolau is he's just gonna have enough in the tank. He's he's been around the block. He's been released from the UFC, came back from them, and he's as you're talking about. So he's been around. He's fought some of the best fighters in the world, and as he made his debut, made his second debut against Manel Kape, and then got a job done. So this is a tough one to pick. I wouldn't have any confidence choosing anyone.
Yeah, and this is a situation that's a bit rare in the flyweight division. I really see a situation where we could get a finish. Both guys don't have fantastic chins. They've been finished before. Nikolai in particular, it's concerning. The guy doesn't look good on the scale, and he's been, as I said, knocked out before. So we could see the guy land a big shot here. So don't bet on that one at all in any facet, if you ask me. So we'll move on to the first fight of the night: Luis Saldana versus Bruno Souza. This is going to be a fight where we see a ton of striking. Both guys are historically strikers. Luis coming off a tough loss to Austin Lingo. He was lighting up Austin Lingo. And his cardio fell off a cliff, and he lost the last 2 rounds. Lingo just had more grit in there. Saldana, he's got a fair amount of experience. He came in from the Contender Series. He knocked out the tough alumni. Man, I can't remember the tough alumni's name at this moment.
Vince Murdoch.
Yeah, Vince Murdoch, the alpha male product, knocked him out. He had a huge size advantage in that fight. Saldana historically is fighting guys that give him trouble on the ground, like the Griffins of the world. I thought Griffin won that fight, but here's the deal. Souza will not give him problems on the ground. He's a Lyoto Machida gym product. The guy has the classic karate style. He's a point fighter. He's got wins over Kamala. He's got a win over Kamala Kirk. He took the first round away from Meslik Bagdasaryan. He's a good fighter. But the reason why this fight is out of pick'em is because realistically, I think Sosa's actually a better striker, but it's the way he fights. He doesn't fight with urgency. He fights to stay safe, in my opinion. And when you're not throwing a higher output than your opponent, the judges probably will not give the fight to you. That was the deal with when he fought Melzik. He could have won the fight, but he was not putting himself he was not taking the risks to land high output. He's very defensively minded. And the thing with Saldana, as I mentioned before, does not have good cardio. So neither guy is a guy you can really trust here. At the end of the day, I will pick Saldana just because I think he will be the one landing more strikes. He averages 1.6 strikes more than Souza, so I feel Saldana will outstrike him. But this will be a very close striking match. That's what I see here.
Yeah, 100%. This is a tough one to pick at the first one. As you say, as you see there at the top of the card, so pick him. So, and as you were talking about, this is going to be a striking matchup. I remember seeing Saldana. I can't remember. Was it UFC Day against Jordan Griffin?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. And then his last fight, as you were talking against Austin Lingo, he's got good striking. He just got taken down a few times, and but I just don't, as you've talked about, I don't see Souza being able to take him down. And so this is going to be a striking matchup. Saldana, he's lasted long. He's got that reach advantage. Just a little bit taller. I don't think the height is going to be a massive factor, but that reach, he's got 3 inches in reach on him. But yeah, this is a tough one to pick. Honestly, I'm a little bit stuck on this one. But if I'm thinking off the top of my head, I'm probably going to go Saldana. I see him getting it done. But this one, I would have no confidence picking either.
Yeah, this is a fight where I say don't bet on it. Whether I say bet this one to go to decision, because Bruno Souza, as I said, he does not put himself in danger, and Saldana is not some crazy power puncher. So I say bet this one and go to decision.
Yeah, 100%. What a fantastic episode we had. We talked about UFC London, and then we talked about UFC Columbus. That's happening this weekend. It's a fantastic episode. We also had 4 versus Eddie Hall this weekend.
Can you repeat that?
We had 4 versus Eddie Hall.
Oh yeah, Eddie Hall. I can't wait to see Eddie Hall fight. That's a really important fight for him.
No, they fought.
What? They fought?
They fought, yeah.
Oh, geez. It already happened?
Yeah, full, but the Man Mountain, the big guy.
Yeah, never mind. I heard about that. I got the names mixed up. Yeah, I heard he won. Yeah. Really,
yeah, it's
cool to see that guy fight.
It was a tough fight for him, actually. He got knocked down in the first. He got outboxed in kind of outboxed in the second, and then he brought it back. Eddie got tired, and then but you know what? I was really, really impressed with Thor's boxing. His jab is actually really, really good. It was quite surprising. His technique was, it was much better than Eddie Hall's. You could see that, and he started to switch up. He would jab once, and then in the next round he would jab twice. You could see he was learning, and he jabbed twice, hit him with the left hand, and then he knocked Eddie Hall down, and he looked in bad trouble. So Ford just had the better boxing technique. Was better, so that's how he won that fight. But it was interesting to say the least. The heaviest fight in boxing history, I think.
Yeah, I think the Mountain would have done well in the early days of the UFC, where everything went, because the guy could just pull off kills like he did in Game of Thrones, just stick his thumbs into the guy's eyes until their head exploded. But nonetheless, I do want to get to Silva slips. I didn't get to it last week. It didn't matter anyway because I lost. So take my advice for this one. I say bet Neil Magny by decision. Bet Latifi. Bet I say bet Wood versus Grasso to go to decision, and bet Curtis Blaydes. I say those. Yeah, those are favorites, but yeah, I really think those are safe spots. As I mentioned, for many of those winning methods, that's historically how guys get it done. And when they're big favorites, those are the risks you have to take, guys, to just getting it done the way they usually do to get better odds. It failed with me last week with Gunnar Nelson by submission, but that was like a unique case where Takashi didn't care about winning. He just he cared about not getting submitted. So that was a unique scenario there. Also Hooker versus Allen. Those guys fought with reckless abandon, so you really can't predict that stuff. Maybe I'll think twice about betting fights to go to decision when the UFC's in London, because those fighters were like Energizer bunnies when they felt the crowd's energy.
I mean, if you look at the card on paper, this week's cards, it shows a lot of decisions, doesn't it? So after what we got last week, we were spoiled with finishes. So it's I feel like there might be a few too many decisions. We think, wow, was that really it? But I'm gonna enjoy the fights nonetheless. It's gonna be fantastic.
This fight night is in the Billy Quarantillo, Shane Burgos spot, where they have to follow the big massive event of Gaethje Chandler. Remember, those guys had to follow Gaethje Chandler. Nobody really cared.
Crazy. It was crazy that they were first fight the main card.
Yeah,
I know Trevor Whitman had so much going on that day, but wow.
Yeah. I expect this to be a really good event, but it's almost impossible for it to beat UFC London. UFC London, it was truly special. We'll be talking about that event a decade from now. I really believe so. Can you just tell me what it felt like as a former Londoner, the impact of that card? Because over here in America, I can't really gauge it.
Yeah, I used to live in London. I moved all the way up to the North England now, so it's just amazing. The atmosphere. It was crazy seeing everyone chanting Tom Aspinall's name outside in the arena. It was just crazy. It was deserved. He put himself into that moment, and he earned it. And it was a fantastic performance. And I feel like we have to really build off this, though. We have to really build off this. We can't stop now. And I feel like we've showed Dana White, what he can have if he has regular shows inside the UK. I feel like he needs to go elsewhere. I know London's a good place to have an event, but I would love to see him go Scotland, Wales, Ireland. If he goes Ireland, wow. Like he would realize how good of a market. Well, you got Ireland, you got Conor McGregor, but you just know how good of a market Ireland is. As I talked about Wales, we've got Jack Shaw coming through. He can main event a show in Wales. It's just we've got such a stacked, elite athletes coming out of Britain right now. It's incredible. So we really need to capitalize on it, and we need to really go all out for it. And we can't let the momentum stop. So I think Dana White realized that. And I would love to see Paul Craig get a main event in Glasgow. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, I say Paul Craig, Dominic Reyes in Glasgow. Let's book it. That about wraps up our episode, the 71st episode of the March and Silva MMA show. What do you have to say to the people to wrap it up?
Well, it was a fantastic show, as you're talking about. We had a fantastic UFC London card to talk about. Then we have UFC Columbus this weekend. Make sure you tune in next week, though, where we get to talk about UFC Columbus. And
we will talk about UFC
Is it
Oh
273?
yeah, there's no UFC. There's no UFC that Saturday.
Wow.
So yeah, just recapping that card. I'm sure it's gonna have some memorable moments. We do have WrestleMania that weekend, which will have
We can talk
Ronda
about
Rousey
that,
and Brock Lesnar competing. So yeah, that's something to watch for MMA fans.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. Then took a few. I'm not too big on that WWE, but yeah, I can probably I'll talk about it. It's fun. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. Make sure you tune in next week where we talk about, as I mentioned, UFC Columbus, and then obviously we'll touch up about WrestleMania as well. So make sure you tune in next week, Tuesday, same time. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Goodbye. Oh, I've clicked the wrong button. Oh, see, I'm not very good at this stuff. Thank you all for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.